It's time now for County-Wide, a presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. You'll hear about the interesting issues and happenings that affect all our lives. Here's today's County-Wide.
Well, good day and welcome to the program. I'm Brad Miller, and we're happy to welcome via Zoom today from the snow-encrusted Prescott area as we record our program in the middle of a snowstorm. And Stephen Everett, a Yavapai County Community Health Services epidemiologist, joins us on the show. Stephen, good day to you. And you got some snow where you are this morning.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a snowstorm, but I grew up in the Northeast. This wouldn't even cancel school.
But here it's got everybody driving slow and cautiously and carefully as we record on this snowy morning. Well, when it is cool and cold and snowy, it makes us think of wintertime things, and wintertime sometimes makes us think of flu and stuff like that, and we'll get into that this morning. But as we talk with your knowledge at the health services, we've got to talk first about measles.
Yes.
Because it seems to be on the minds and mouths of everybody across the country. This pretty big, significant outbreak, I guess, in Texas. And I clearly we're concerned about that coming to Arizona and to everywhere else around the country. I saw, this is kind of anecdotal, maybe you can support or knock this down, that Arizona has 4 counties with a lower measles vaccination percentage or rate than does the hotspot of measles in Texas. Have you heard that?
That is true.
Is that right? Is Yavapai County among those 4? Yes,
Yavapai County has very low vaccine rates. It's something we've known about for years, have been trying to change, but been having very little success.
Okay.
People have just been very reluctant to get vaccines.
For measles specifically, or for an array?
For all vaccines. And this goes back even before COVID.
Really?
So it wasn't a COVID vaccine reluctance. This went back long before anyone even heard of COVID.
No kidding. I'm surprised to hear that. I know COVID fanned the flames on that big time.
Yes.
Before we get into that, let's talk specifically about measles. And I don't know if you have numbers and data right there in front of you, but are we having a problem yet? Have we seen measles in Yavapai County? If so, is it serious, minor? What would you call it?
Well, our first measles case in the 22 years I've been here was last year. That was our first and only case we had. It was only one person. There was no spread, which was great. This person traveled internationally, was exposed there, came back, showed symptoms. Fortunately, the person in question isolated himself immediately, got tested. So by doing that, he was able to keep it from getting into a full-blown outbreak, which was great.
Okay. First case in 22 years.
Yes,
so
or at least 22 years. Yeah. I can't speak for before I got here.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. So that's significant. And now here it is, and I don't know the numbers in Texas. I would think perhaps they're somewhat similar. It's a more populous state than here. But what does that tell you? That it's coming back? Is it because of that low vaccination rate you mentioned at the top of the show? What's kind of feeding into that?
Well, we're definitely seeing more cases in the country. Last year, the U.S. saw 285 cases. And currently, as of 3 days ago, they haven't updated the numbers yet for today. So we're at 164 cases. So we're already 60% of the way there, even though we're only barely 3 months into the year.
And is most of that the Texas situation, or?
Yes. Yeah. There's currently 159 cases in Texas.
Okay.
Of that, 22 people have been hospitalized, and there's been 1 death. And that's bled over into New Mexico. It's the same outbreak in both states. The county that's seeing it in New Mexico adjoins the counties in Texas that are seeing it. They're seeing 10 cases. They didn't have numbers for hospitalizations, but they also saw a single death. So we're already up to 2 deaths. with this outbreak.
Okay. Now, because measles has been, well, not eradicated, clearly, but not something that's been on the front burner in recent years, I wonder how many of us are kind of familiar with it. So describe for me, measles is, I mean, usually when we talk about infectious disease, we're most concerned about the very young and the very old. Is measles kind of the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, measles, it can affect anyone, if you're unvaccinated. It can affect people who are fully vaccinated. Not all vaccines are 100% effective. They can either be non-effective, the person just does not have a response to it, or will give minimal or just a partial immunization, much like COVID. Sometimes you'll have the vaccine, but you'll get a milder form of COVID because of it. So measles is like that as well. Of the cases we're seeing in Texas and New Mexico, the vast majority of people are either unvaccinated or undervaccinated. Did not receive the full complement of shots for it. When everyone thinks about measles, they think about the red spots that appear all over the body.
All right.
And but there's also some other some other symptoms. Usually the actual measles spots doesn't start until about 4 days into the illness.
Oh.
The illness usually starts with a high fever and what are known as the 3 C's, which is cough, conjunctivitis, which is the inflammation of the eyes, and coryza, which is essentially a fancy word for runny nose.
Gotcha.
So high fever, cold-like symptoms, and then 4 days after, you start to break out in the rash. It starts, got to remember, because I always get it mixed up with other rash diseases, it starts at the top of the head and works its way down the body.
Really?
And then as you recover, the same process. You'll stop getting the rash will fade from the head and then work its way down until you have no more rash.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Kind of like putting spots on a leopard. You just kind of picture how you would paint it.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm chuckling here. Has measles, I mean, clearly it's been lethal in some cases where these folks that perhaps were predisposed with other conditions and measles aggravated something else, or can measles be fatal in and of its own?
Yes, measles can be fatal. A lot of cases, as we said, were hospitalized. This doesn't mean that they had any life-threatening injuries. Some of them were hospitalized just to isolate them, but it can cause severe illnesses. Probably the worst is encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain.
That's bad.
And even though you recover, you can still have after effects such as learning disabilities, deafness, seizures. So it can be a very serious disease. Okay.
All right. We need to take a break. There's plenty more that I want to talk about. Our guest, again, is Stephen Everett, epidemiologist, Yavapai County Community Health Services. Measles, a big problem in Texas. It's been all over the news, and it sounds like it is spreading here. Data kind of the early first or so week of March as we record our program. We'll pause for a moment. Countywide is back right after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley. And your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Thank you so very much for your generosity and kindness in helping others. I hope that you take advantage of the many Arizona state tax credits available when giving to qualified charities and schools. If you haven't taken advantage, I hope you'll ask your favorite charity if they qualify. You can go to Arizona Department of Revenue website, search for tax credits, and look at the list of qualifying charities. Then look at your latest Arizona income tax return and see how an Arizona tax credit can benefit many. This is Lewis saying thanks again.
Let's talk. That's the message from Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent, providing a personal touch when making insurance and financial decisions. Jonna will simplify your insurance needs while offering competitive pricing. Let's talk auto, home, life, and farm. Call Jonna at Farm Bureau today at 928-649-8686. Your Cottonwood Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company. At Farm Bureau, they insure more than just farms.
We come back to the program. It's Countywide. I'm Brad Miller, and our guest today via Zoom is Stephen Everett, epidemiologist with the Yavapai County Community Health Services. All right, is it too late to be vaccinated? If measles is kind of in the community, is there like a latency period after the vaccine before it becomes effective, or should I get vaccinated at this point?
Yeah, a vaccine usually takes about 2 weeks for your body to respond and build up the antibodies to have an effective immune response. So a lot of cases, people say they got the flu shot and I got the flu just after. Either they were infected before they got the shot or shortly after they got the shot. You cannot get the flu from the flu shot. It's absolutely impossible.
Yeah. I wonder if, because I know people hear this, that there are, you'll correct me because I won't say this properly. I think you see where I'm going. That flu shots, in some cases, part of how they work is to introduce into the body certain elements of the flu virus itself, and that's how it effectively prevents the flu from grabbing onto you in the season. Am I close? Can you help me with what I'm trying to say?
Yes, totally nailed it. Well, the traditional flu shot, which was grown in eggs, what they do is they infect the eggs with the flu virus. The virus grows in the eggs. Then they take that, they put it into essentially a big blender, which chops up the virus. So you're getting dead virus. You're just getting tiny little bits of it, and that is injected into you. And then your antibodies react to those little bits of protein, and that's what causes the immune response.
Okay. It's just biology. It's physics. It's how the thing works.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of like saying I had some hamburger, but then I got attacked by a bull. Therefore, the hamburger was the cause. So.
Maybe the best analogy I've ever heard. I'll never forget that. Okay. So that puts a fine head on it. I got to tell you, at the risk of getting one of my coworkers angry with me, I've got a coworker who's just been kind of sniffly and sneezy and a little wheezy and doesn't have the flu, went to the doctor, but is just all season long, kind of for much of the winter, since maybe shortly after holiday time, just feeling a little bit punky. Is that a thing? Is that allergy? Can you help us diagnose my...
Oh, it could be so many things. I mean, it could be allergies. There's so many viruses that cause the common cold.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone who's had infants know every other week they're sick.
Right.
It's because, they're the antibodies they inherited from their mom are slowly working their way out of their system. They have to develop new antibodies. So they're constantly getting sick to develop their symptoms. To develop their immunities, I should say.
Okay.
So this person, it could be allergies. It could just he has a kid at home that's picking up cold germs from them. It may just be something lingering. I know I've had it myself where you would have a cold illness and you cough and cough and cough and your throat gets irritated, which makes you cough more, which irritates your throat more. So, but it's always a good thing if it lasts more than 2 weeks, definitely go see your doctor. Make sure it's not something else.
Right.
Whooping cough can cause it. If you have a cough over 2 weeks, it may be whooping cough. If adults, tends to be very mild. It'll just be a persistent cough instead of getting the characteristic whooping sound or coughing, where you can't catch your breath that you often see in children that are unvaccinated.
Right. We've had that. Okay.
Yes, we have that all the time, just sporadic cases. We haven't had any outbreaks as far as I've been able to determine, but it's just out there circulating around.
Okay. One thing I neglected, I would like to bounce back if we can to measles. The measles question. Is measles typically something that babies are vaccinated? I mean, is measles part of the routine that babies or young children get routinely, or do we need to? Yeah, go ahead.
Yep, they get a shot which is known as the MMR, which is measles, mumps, and rubella. And rubella is probably better known as German measles. The first shot is given at 1 year of age, and then they have a follow-up booster shot. So when I was saying earlier with the outbreak, when we were discussing the Texas outbreak, some people weren't fully immunized. They only received one shot instead of the two that's recommended.
So not getting the booster can clearly make a significant difference.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. And then am I good for life when I get those as a little one?
You're supposed to be. It's because it's so rare now that they thought that it was lifelong, but it turns out that in some people, your immune system, when you start getting older, it starts to break down. It doesn't remember everything you were exposed to. So it is possible, even though you're fully immunized, you can get measles again. But generally, it tends to be somewhat protective. It won't totally prevent it, but your symptoms will be milder.
Okay. Now, given that, are people like at risk, maybe, diabetics or other autoimmune issues, or just if you're of a certain age? I'm a grandpa now. Should I get and would it be considered a booster or an initial vaccination? I had the MMR more years ago than I can count. But what would you recommend for someone, say, 60 and over, a retired type person?
Best thing to do is talk it over with your doctor.
Sure.
If you have health conditions that affect your immune system and you think there's a risk of you being exposed to measles, say you're traveling internationally to somewhere where there is an outbreak, you may want to consider it. For just a general person who doesn't do any traveling, I wouldn't worry about it too much because even though we're having these large outbreaks, it's still very rare in the United States.
Okay.
It's not considered a disease that's domestic. Since at least 2000, all the cases in the United States have been tracked back to an international traveler.
Yeah. Okay. And then one final thing about measles, and this makes me kind of reflect a little bit on COVID. After kind of the terrible stories that we saw in Seattle and New York City, after we'd had a little bit of time to get some hold on COVID, there were still an awful lot of people, and I kind of understand it, mid-20s to perhaps mid-40s, young, healthy, athletic, good shape, thought I'm not going to get the shot just because I don't have the time, and if I do get COVID, I'll shake it off, and most of them did. But can folks acquire measles? It'll be minimal impact to them, but is the bigger danger passing it on to, again, those more susceptible communities, babies and old folks?
Oh, absolutely. So there's two diseases that epidemiologists absolutely hate getting calls on. That's measles and meningococcus. Measles because it's incredibly infectious.
Yeah.
It's one of the most infectious diseases known, if not the most infectious. Meningococcus we worry about because this is the disease where a person is perfectly healthy in the morning and by the early evening they're dead.
Wow.
So whenever we hear that, we find that person, we track down every single person that's been exposed to them, load them up with antibiotics to keep them alive.
Serious stuff. Okay.
Yes.
And
So,
on that
yes,
happy note,
vaccines are very, very, very important.
very strongly recommended. All right.
Yes.
We need to take our final break. When we come back, we'll wrap up and give you some information about whom you can call, where to get good, solid information, recommendations, advice on your status, or whether you should be vaccinated if you are, and all of those good questions we'll kind of finalize with Stephen Everett, epidemiologist, Yavapai County Community Health Services. Countywide, back right after this.
Life changes, then it changes again. Predicting the unexpected in life is impossible. That's why it's called unexpected. So when it comes to financial goals, our philosophy is don't predict, prepare. Hi, I'm Edward Jones financial advisor Matthias Sandoval. A job loss, change in health, or a loss of a loved one can have a big impact on your family's financial security. Let's work together to help make sure you're equipped for life's unexpected events. Call our office to schedule a face-to-face appointment.
Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Verde Solaire, your hometown heating, air conditioning, and plumbing company in the Verde Valley, and your trusted North Central Arizona Goodman dealer. Goodman is a name you can trust with the revolutionary Comfort Bridge technology factory installed into select Goodman gas furnaces and air handlers to ensure the entire system operates at peak energy efficient performance. Verde Solaire offers free in-home estimates, locally owned and operated since 1983. Visit them at verdesolaire.com. Better, cleaner, faster.
Thank you so very much for your generosity and kindness in helping others. I hope that you take advantage of the many Arizona state tax credits available when giving to qualified charities and schools. If you haven't taken advantage, I hope you'll ask your favorite charity if they qualify. You can go to Arizona Department of Revenue website, search for tax credits, and look at the list of qualifying charities. Then look at your latest Arizona income tax return and see how an Arizona tax credit can benefit many. This is Lewis saying thanks again.
Let's talk. That's the message from Jonna Randall Murdoch, your local Farm Bureau agent, providing a personal touch when making insurance and financial decisions. Jonna will simplify your insurance needs while offering competitive pricing. Let's talk auto, home, life, and farm. Call Jonna at Farm Bureau today at 928-649-8686. Your Cottonwood Farm Bureau property and casualty insurance company. At Farm Bureau, they insure more than just farms.
Welcome back. Our final segments with Stephen Everett, epidemiologist with the Yavapai County Community Health Services. Stephen, I thank you so much. Such good information, important for folks to hear, and please do with it what you will and what you should. Vaccinations, measles right now is in the news. Those are important, Stephen. If I talk to your own healthcare provider is usually a good first step. And then as we get beyond that, where can people go? Is there a good website for additional information?
You can either go to the CDC website, cdc.gov. Just type in the disease you're interested in. They'll take you to a page giving you loads of information on it. If you're looking to get vaccinated, talk to your provider, or you can call the Community Health Services at 928-583-1000.
Okay, very good.
And if you're traveling internationally, check out what the situation is, what vaccines you need for international travel, and you can get those also either through your doctor or through the Community Health Services.
Okay, and do you know? Aren't many of the welcoming countries, don't they require such vaccinations before you travel there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay.
they do.
So you'll need to know that whether you want to get the shot or not. All right.
Yes, and plan months ahead because sometimes we have to special order the vaccine and that can take some time.
Okay.
So don't call a week before you travel and try to get vaccines. We might not be able to do it.
All right. We appreciate the work you do. We appreciate you sharing your time and expertise with us today. Stephen Everett, epidemiologist, Yavapai County Community Health Services. I'm Brad Miller. It's Countywide, and we'll see you next time.
This has been Countywide. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday at this time. If you have a topic or guest idea that you'd like to suggest, email us, news@myradioplace.com.